may not have previously been with us in some of the other previous sessions, because all of these financial fitness sessions are kind of jump in, jump out sessions. And we kind of planned it that way because we knew we had a diverse group of people who had registered, and everybody may not have needed the basics of budgeting. Some people are anxiously waiting for us to get to investing, and we're excited to get there as well, but that is our last session. But at this point, if you've registered, whether you needed it or not, hopefully everyone has pulled out their budgets, or they've dusted off a budget, or you've created a new budget for your household. And as we said, it is not in concrete. Every time we've had a session, I hope you got additional information that has allowed you to continue to massage your budget, because the goal is at the end of this year that you have a really good working budget that can take you through 2021. Because if you're like most of us, some of us pay some bills quarterly or monthly, and a bill has come up in the mail that you forgot to put on your budget, so you had to go back and revamp it and revise it. That is okay. A budget is fluid. It changes as your needs come along and as different expenses come up that you had not anticipated, or that you are anticipating, which is what we're going to be talking about on tonight. But hopefully you've got that budget. Then we gave you a spend tracker. I hope you did not just throw that away, because once again, we're still in COVID, and COVID really is protecting a lot of us from some of the expenditures that we probably would be making if we were getting out of the house like we used to. So don't throw away that worksheet. Keep it handy, because again, it is going to influence your budget. You are going to identify and find out about expenses that are keeping you from figuring out where all that extra money is coming from when you did your budget. And you say, I don't have that much money left. And it's because of the things that we do that we don't normally account for as a bill, as we talked about, going to Starbucks, going to 7-Eleven, buying ice cream, going to the movies, all those things where you just hit that debit card. So please keep your spend tracker handy, because that line item on your budget called miscellaneous spending, that's the number that's coming off your spend tracker. And you can really see, if you're being good and honest about it, how much of your money really just goes out the door that you really did not realize you were spending that much on miscellaneous things. And then, of course, last week we went over the credit cards. So hopefully you've got a credit card worksheet that you are planning to get out of debt. We talked about, debt is not in and of itself bad, because we said what? You have to manage your debt. If you can manage your debt and the debt not manage you, it's okay. I.e., you can easily pay your car note. You can easily pay your rent or your mortgage. That's the goal. It's not that you're debt free. Because again, in this season, when interest rates are low, I always say use other people's money. But the idea is that you are managing any debt that you may be in. And credit cards really are a no-no. The debt that you really should have should really only be like a car note or, your mortgage and things like that. Right. A credit card where you, especially if you're using it to just, again, all those miscellaneous expenses. You're going out to eat, you're buying some shoes, you're buying a pair of jeans. That is a signal to you that you really cannot afford those purchases if you do not have the cash in your pocket to pay for it right then and there. That should be the ding, 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 ding. I can't afford it. Because what happens is, as we all know, you run up that credit card, and before you know it, the credit card is managing you. So that brings us to where we are tonight,
Absolutely. Which is how to plan for big purchases. And even as we were preparing for tonight, all of this is going to boil back down to our first class, our budget. Can our budget support what we're trying to do? What does our budget say? And so when we think about purchasing houses or even cars, one of the principles that my mom has always taught us is, start living as if you're already paying that bill. So what she'll say is if you're living in an apartment now and you're paying $1,200 a month in that apartment, but you're thinking about buying a house and your mortgage is going to go to $2,000, well, start putting that incremental difference, that $800 to the side to see how long, if at all, you can support that lifestyle. So how at least, start putting that $800 in a savings account for the next couple of months, and that'll allow you to see, is this something that I can really afford, or have I had to go back and touch that $800 to go back and pay for my current expenses? So the same thing holds true for if you're thinking about buying a new car, whether you have one now or not. Because for me, before I got the car that I had, I didn't have a car note. So this was a totally new purchase for me. It was a new bill for me. I had not ever had a car note. So I really had to work my budget to see what amount of a car payment a month can I afford. And what I also want to suggest that you do when you start thinking about, what that monthly cost is to think about the other costs that are associated with that purchase. So for an example, sometimes when you live in an apartment, sometimes your water and your utilities are all included in that monthly rent payment. But when you get a mortgage, I've not ever seen a situation where Dominion says, no, just pay the bank and we'll keep you we'll keep your lights on. You're gonna have to pay Dominion, Virginia Natural Gas. If you have cable, you got, so think about all of the associated expenses. And then same thing with a car note. You don't just get to drive the car and never have to do anything to it. Every so often, you're gonna have to put gas in the car. So are you buying a luxury car where you have to always put 93 of premium in, or what is that? How much does it look like that it's going to cost you to fill up? Or another big one, and I talk to my friends about this all the time, that upkeep maintenance is a killer. It can, anytime you take your car to a dealership, they're going to find something wrong with it. But those are the other added expenses that you should be thinking about as you begin to plan for these big purchases.
So the key is you do not arbitrarily, spur of the moment, say, oh man, I like that car. Let's go get that car and run down to the dealership and go make a major purchase, something that is going to impact your household for months or years to come. You need to plan for them. And as Kimberly has shared, what you want to do is figure out that incremental amount, as she said, in addition to the other things associated with it, and come up with, what is this car? Let's just say car for an example. What is this car really going to cost me? So it's going to cost you not only the car payment, it's going to cost you insurance. Call your insurance agent. See if a new car or a different model car is going to increase your insurance premium. And most of the time, that answer is yes. So you want to know that amount before you go buy that car.
Even the color of your car sometimes can affect.
Did y'all know that?
I had a red
cars,
car.
it used to be, that's right. Maybe it still is. Because I remember we were looking at a red car at one time and the agent said, especially red Mustangs. Oh no. So not only the type of car, but the color of the car impacts your premium, and your age impacts your premium. So you want to be sure you consider all this before you think, I can afford that car note. And then all these other things come up. And then you like cars with the numbers on the back, or the BMW or the Mercedes. Well, those mechanics automatically, their hourly rate is double what other cars may be, especially if you don't have the extended warranties on your car. So I know you can say, I got the extended warranty, but that has a cost. So the reality of what we're trying to get you to see is, regardless of what major purchase you're getting ready or thinking about getting, do not get it quickly. We are a society that want it now. You see the car and within the next 30 days, you want to go get it. Oh, you found a great deal on a house. It's a short sale. Oh, I can afford this extra $200. But as Kimberly said, you're moving from an apartment into a house. Yeah, it may only be $200 difference between your rent and your mortgage, But as she's already shared, what is it? The utility bill, the water bill, all these other things that go into home ownership, your homeowner's policy. I mean, there is a lot that goes into it. Please sit down, put it to paper. I always say talking about it is good, but it's not as good as writing it down on a sheet of paper. This is what the mortgage is going to be. This is what the insurance impact is going to be. This is the estimated utilities. And especially if you're buying a home that's been used before, homeowners usually have copies of their previous utility bill, so you can get a good feel for what that number is going to be. And then go back to that budget that we've had y'all prepare and see if you have that extra cushion in that budget. So right off the bat, when you have the budget that we just had you create, did you have any extra money after you filled out your needs? Did you have extra money on the line? Well, if you did, that's a good thing. And we would say to you, oh, very good. It looks like you're able to make, in this example we're using, that car purchase. But even still, before you do that, what we challenge you to do is to try and put that extra money in your savings account for at least 3 months. That car is going to still be on the lot. I promise you. That house is still going to be on the market. I promise you. And if it's not, what did you say? And if it's not, it won't meant for you. I guarantee you, because what you want to do is prove to yourself that you really can afford that major purchase. So real simple, it's going to cost you an extra $500 a month. Take that $500 at the end of the upcoming month, put it in your savings account.
Leave it alone.
Leave it alone. And try and do that for at least 3 months. I don't even say if you can just do it for 2 months, but 3 is preferable. If you can transfer that $500 out of your checking account as if you had bought that car today and put it in your savings account and not have to go back into that savings account to use that money for whatever reason, there should be no reason you have to go back into your savings account to take that $500 out. Then you're ready. Because what have you just proven to yourself?
I don't need that money.
I really don't need that money. Because if you have to go get that money, that says you're not ready. Because if you had bought that car, that money would not be there because you would have paid it to the car dealership. So that's a quick and easy test on any major purchase that you're planning to make. So if you're looking to move into a bigger house, or moving from an apartment to a house, figure out what that incremental amount is going to be and put that money in a savings account. And look at it this way. It does several things for you. If you do it for 3 months, wow, you've built up 3 months of savings of your car note right off the bat. So you're ahead of the game. 3 months. So if something should happen, you got 3 months of car payments already saved. If you had to spend it, you've saved yourself the heartache of believing and thinking you could afford it when the reality proves to you you really couldn't. Because don't get fooled and say, oh, well, this was an exception. We weren't really expecting that expense, because life happens all the time. Things are always going to come up. And you got to remember what we told you in putting together your budget. You've got to have flexibility left for life. And life is still going to happen even after you buy that car. So if you only have $500 left at the bottom and it's going to take all $500, you're not ready, because you got to have some cushion always left. Do not budget to every single nickel and dime.
And Elder, I want to throw in there, you were talking about, put it aside for the 3 months, and if the house isn't there, it wasn't meant for you. But even if you're thinking now, I may not be ready today to make the purchase, or I don't even know what house I want, but the style house you like and what they generally cost, you can still start putting that incremental difference to the side.
That's right.
Now, right. So that whenever that house does come on the market, you're already either ready to make that purchase, you've had the chance to see if you can really afford it, and you've got that extra money that you might need for the down payment, or to, pay the mortgage, or a couple months ahead, be prepared a couple months ahead of time, as Elder was saying, or whatever the situation may be. So you don't have to wait until the very moment. It's October right now. If you and your husband saying, I think we want to move by spring of next year, start planning now.
Good point.
Don't wait until March, and then now you're trying to figure out, can I afford it? Can I afford it? Because right now, there's no better time than the present to start planning for that purchase. So planning even ahead of time, being a little more proactive. That way, when it pops up, you can go after it and get that house that you want, or that car that you've been waiting for.
Absolutely. And some of those savings may also help you with the down payment, whether it's the down payment on the house or the down payment on the car, because it may help you to get a lower payment as well. We had a question in the chat that talked about, or a comment, that is it okay to use debit cards rather than the credit cards? And then, because that way you're actually using your cash. And I commented that obviously, yes, because a debit card is cash. It is not putting things on credit. However, if you remember, I cautioned people earlier about using a debit card, because we tend to not use that old-fashioned checkbook where we keep track of how many times we've swiped that debit card. And the last thing you want to have happen is you've swiped your debit card. Yes, you've used your cash, but you swiped 1 or 2 times too many. And now you get to the end of the month and the bill is due and you don't have enough cash. And that's because you've been swiping using your debit card. So I still caution you that you need to have, and a lot of the banks will have tied to your checking account. When you use your debit card, it'll do a running balance for you. So you need to use those apps, or use those kind of worksheets that banks provide for you. Or if you like me and you're old school, I still use that old-fashioned pen and paper checkbook. And if I swipe something with my debit card, I write it in my checkbook. So I always know how much money I have available in the bank, to make sure that I don't go below the balance that I know I need to maintain to pay upcoming bills. So yes, a debit card is good. It's better than a credit card. But I caution you again, don't overspend on the debit card.
So we have a couple of examples. So Elder, do you want me to go to the draft budget first, or you want me to go to the calculators?
Calculators.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen, and I absolutely love this feature. So you should see just a basic Google screen. And so something that I like to do when I'm preparing to, whether it's buy a house or getting a new car, I was doing this when I was searching for my car, is I like to use the payment calculator to determine what the anticipated payment is. So let's say, for example, I'm trying to buy a car. I will literally just Google car payment calculator. And it pops up with a generic example in here, but since it's in here, we'll just look at this one. And so they're saying if you're planning to borrow $25,000 at an interest rate of 3.11% for the average of 60 months, your anticipated car payment is $450. So right there, you can decide, do I have $450 on my bottom line left on my budget? Can I afford this car? Or maybe I can't afford this $25,000 car. Maybe I need to try for $15,000. And you see how it has updated my monthly payment now to $270. So now I can, maybe this is something that I can afford. So I'm gonna also, let me see if I can, so we're gonna take this $270 car payment, and I'm gonna stop sharing so that I can now share a draft budget.
And while you're pulling something else up, Kimberly, another thing I want to say on the calculator, it showed 60 months, which basically is 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a 5-year car payment. Now, I know car dealers now will go 7, and I understand they are going as far as 8 and 9 years out now. Y'all, that is crazy. I remember, and I guess I keep dating myself, used to be a 3-year car payment, and we used to say we'd never go to 5, but as the price of cars went up, everybody started easing into 4 years, and 5 years kind of is the average now. But you got to think about how long you're going to keep that car and how long that car is actually going to work and run before it's time to trade it in. Because what we also see is that people will go out more months. So in that same calculator that Kimberly just pulled up, you could have left the $25,000 payment there, but made it for 72 months or 80 months. And it would have also dropped your payment down to get you closer to that, say, $200 that you were looking for. But what happens is 3, 4, 5 years into your car loan, you're ready to get a new car, but you really got 2, 3 years of payments left. You go to the car dealership, and what would they tell you? Oh, don't worry about it. We'll roll that balance into your new car. And you just, oh, look at the Lord, look at the Lord, look at the Lord. That ain't the Lord, because now what you have done is you've taken a $25,000 car, and let's say you still owed another $5,000 from the other car. They're going to take that 5 and tack it on to the 25. Now you owe $30,000 on a car that's not worth $30,000. And I'm sure there are some of you who got the lesson that you got in trouble. You tried to take it back. The car dealership told you, I can't give you but 15. You said, but I owe 30. Well, we sorry. And you stay upside down forever. And you never get out of that until you, once again, bite the bullet and just pay off that entire car loan. So please, please, please don't think rolling a previous balance into a new car balance is a good thing. Try and not go beyond the 5 years. And if your budget cannot support that payment amount with that interest rate, wait. There we go again. There's that bad word we hate, but wait, because otherwise you're going to be upside down or you're going to be struggling in your car payment. Okay, Kimberly, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
No, that's great. So y'all don't mind my simple budget. I know I don't have everything in here that the normal person would have. We have a question that said, before we go into this, Elder, it says, how about trading a car that's already paid for a new one?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's my little secret, but the sooner you start that, the better. It's like everything else. There are let me say it this way. There are 2 schools of thought. I operate from the premise that, as y'all heard me say, I get what I like, but I will ride it till it fall apart.
Yeah.
But I will. So my car will be paid off. But when I pay my car off, I continue to pay myself the car payment. Oh, what is it? Why am I doing that? Because I'm already beginning to save money for my new car so that I will have an amount available for a car payment, down payment. So not only will I have my car that is paid off, I will also have the number of months since I paid off my car, but paid myself those car payments to now put down as a car payment. So just think about that for a moment. If you do that, and you do that continually for 1 or 2 car payments, you will get to the point where you walk in the car dealership and you almost buying the car. Here is a small check that you're paying for, because the longer you keep the car that's paid for and ride it, but continue to pay yourself the car payments. Put it in a separate account if you want. Open up a savings account called New Car and put those monthly payments in that account. You'd be amazed how quickly. Think about it. If you had a $500 car note and you pay your car off, but you continue to put $500 in a savings account as if you still had that car payment because you were paying it, so you know you can do it, you would have $6,000 every year that you keep that car. That would be built-in savings. That would do many things for you. It can become your emergency savings fund that you've been trying to save for. Whoop, there it is. You got it. Or it can be that down payment for your next new car. So if you do that for 2-3 years, think about that. If you just ride your car for 3 years after having paid it off, that's $20,000 in addition to your paid off car. You walk in that car dealer and you say, I'm trading this car and I got $20,000 to pay down. Think about that mortgage calculator again. So now maybe you can get a $40,000 car because you got $20,000 to put down. You're already down to what? 25. Then they give you maybe 5 for your car. Now you're down to 20. So think about that. A $20,000 car payment instead of a $500 car note, that's probably a $300 car note. So now you get the car you want, but you're still less than what your car payment was, which means you can even pay this one now off in 2 years instead of 5. And it repeats. So you pay that car off early, 2 to 3 years, ride it for 4 or 5, and look, and this is, you follow where I'm going. So that's the key to being able to get, if it's your desire, a much more expensive car, but not with a big car note attached. But you've got to bite the bullet. You got to find that one car that you are willing to keep, pay off, and ride it for a year or 2 and continue to pay yourself that car note. Now, I hear already people say, oh, Elder, that just takes too much discipline. I can't do that. Yes, you can. You've been paying the car dealer for the last 3 to 4 years to pay that car off. So what is it about? And I guess it's what my daddy said, that money just burn y'all pocket. You get that? It's the end of the month. You don't have that car payment and you ready to what? Go buy some more shoes, buy some jeans, eat out every day. And that $500 is gone. I'm telling you, if you don't take it out of your account, you will spend it. So the way to discipline yourself, open up an account called New Car Payment and keep putting that $500 in there even after you pay off that car. That is what you do.
Absolutely. And so all we wanted to show you guys with this draft budget is this is the person's budget before any mortgage or any car payment is in there. So obviously they have a car, but it must be paid off because they're paying for gas.
Right.
And so the person has $354 remaining before they've purchased any kind of car. So that now shows them what kind of car they can afford, or maybe they need to keep waiting until their income goes up or try and reduce some of their expenses so that they can better afford a car. So if you remember in the example that I showed you, we worked out where we were buying a car for $15,000 and our monthly payment was going to be $270. So if I add that $270 into my so that leaves me with a whopping $84 at the end of the month.
And now, I'm telling you, you can't afford it.
Too tight. Too tight. Absolutely.
$84, y'all know it's gone before you blink your eye.
Absolutely.
Now, that leads me to a question that I think is going to be relative to each of you. How much is enough to have as cushion in your budget? Now, this goes back to what we talked about before. To thine own self be true, which is why your spend tracker worksheet is so critical. I know it's tedious. I know you may not want to be doing it, but it is a good indicator as to how much money you need at the end of your budget. Because if you can't stop going to Starbucks, I mean, let's be honest, you know you're going to go to Starbucks every morning, you're going to get that cup of coffee. Well, you know you need to have at least that much on the bottom line because you know you're going to spend that. And then, you know you're going to eat lunch out. You're not going to pack a lunch. Whatever it is that's relative to you and your habits, whatever's going to make you stick to the rest of your budget, that's what you need on the bottom line as your extra cushion. Because please don't fool yourself and say, well, Elder, I want that car so bad. That's okay. I know I can do without Starbucks. And you will do without Starbucks for about the first month. And then you go, I'll just go this one day. So then you slide back into once a week getting to Starbucks. And before you know it, 2, 3, 4 months down the road, you back at Starbucks every day. And now you can't pay your card note. You've blown your budget. So to thine own self be true. Most of us cannot, if your spend tracker shows a pattern that you go to Starbucks every day, you're gonna go to Starbucks every day. It is the rare, exceptional person who just, got the discipline going on that can make that kind of sacrifice and say, I'd rather have a car than Starbucks and stick to it. Because you got to remember, that car note is for 5 years. So unless you're planning, thinking you're going to get a pay raise or something relatively soon, you're going to be without Starbucks for 5 years based on what your budget says.
And so, Elder, I also want to go back to our Google.
Oh, yeah, this is why you're going back there. This is a good chat, too. We didn't mention tolls. Yes, Chesapeake, Portsmouth, they've got those tolls now on those bridges. And I know, hopefully, please, y'all, get that little box for your car. What is it called?
Easy Pass.
Easy Pass. Get that Easy Pass. Oh, my goodness. Before we got it, we would get the invoice in the mail. I mean, the toll would be $1, but they charged you $25 for having to send you an invoice. I mean, it was some astronomical, crazy stuff. I know it was in the paper for a little while, that it was just astronomical what they were charging you for fees and late fees, where if you just get that Easy Pass, the toll can be 50 cents or 75 cents. So again, if you work somewhere or you're going, on a daily basis, going through those tolls, yep, that is a part of the cost of a car, tolls, absolutely.
And so I just wanted to show you guys the car payment calculator one more time, because you can also do the same exact thing for a mortgage. So you would literally just Google mortgage payment calculator, car loan payment calculator. And so this also walks you through, what the anticipated interest rate or payment would be. Now, again, when it comes to a mortgage, there are other expenses that will be added into your monthly payment. Sometimes your insurances or other things may be factored in. So those are things that are not going to be considered in this payment calculator, but those are things that in the process you can talk to your lending company to figure out what those other expenses would be. And so right now we know rates are really low. So let's say I was looking at a house that was $250,000 at an interest rate of 3%. And so that is a monthly average payment of $1,054. So again, just as we did with the car payment, now you can take this and compare it against your existing budget and determine, is this something that I can afford? Am I at the point where I'm ready to be able to buy a house and start looking for a house? So these are just great tools, really easy to access. Again, you just go to Google, search whether it's a car loan or a mortgage payment, and you're able to manipulate the figures. You can even manipulate here how long your period on the loan will be. So whether it's a 15-year, which then increases your payment, it went up about $700, or the 30-year or 2025. So you can manipulate all of those factors to fit your exact situation.
Okay, before you go off on that, Kimberly, go back to that that screen you were just sharing.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
Okay, because I want to bring one thing to everyone's attention. The calculator that you're using is principal and interest only. If you look down at the next one down, you see it says PITI mortgage calculator. Everybody see that? I just wanted to bring to your attention, just like when we gave you the example about the car, it gave you the car payment only. You had to factor in your insurance, your taxes, your tolls, all those kind of things that are associated with buying a car. Well, it's the same thing with buying a house. This calculator is only giving you your principal and your interest payment. But PITI stands for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. You know how we hate those dreaded taxes, personal property taxes that the city sends you on your car every year? Yeah, we hate to pay that. Well, it's the same thing when you purchase property. There are taxes that you have to pay on that house. And usually whoever holds your mortgage will pay the taxes on your behalf. So they will calculate for you what your taxes are, and they break it down into 12 equal payments so that you have enough in your what they call your escrow account, and they pay it on your behalf. So I just want to make sure everybody understands, when you're using these calculators, you use either, if you're using just the principal and interest, just know that you still have to increase that mortgage payment by your taxes and insurance, your mortgage insurance.
Which your lending company should be able to assist you with figuring out before you sign the dotted line.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay.
And so, Elder, I know another question that kept coming up previously was, how do I know? Let's say I'm good on the house, I'm good on the key, I'm good on the car, but my husband and I regularly have some kids. How do I know if I can afford having kids? I can't put that in a payment calculator.
That is a big plan purchase. That it really is. Now, obviously, as it relates to time, and we always say God pops that baby out when he's ready for you to have that baby. But sometimes, the best you can do is think about the things that are associated with having a baby. There are cost effect things with having it, and then there are time constraints. And so obviously, as we're dealing with finances, we won't get into who's going to take care of the baby and who's going to be home, or what child care sitter you're going to take them with. But think about all of those things have a financial impact. So I hate to say having a baby is like buying a house or a car, but having a baby is like buying a house or a car. Because, and we hear this all the time, how it puts such a dent into your budget. Because if both of you work, somebody's gonna have to pay childcare, or if you decide that the wife or the husband is gonna stay home and they're not gonna work, that's still an impact on your budget. There's gonna either be loss of income, or there are going to be increased expenses. And child care is expensive.
Yeah, my friend say it's another mortgage payment.
I'm sure it is. And that's real easy to do. You can call around to these kinder cares and all these child care areas and find out, what does it cost to have a baby? You got to remember, most of these places charge more for infants than they do for school age children, because obviously the ratio of workers to babies is so much smaller, because they may just have one worker for every 2 babies, where when they get into school it's usually a 1 to 10. So that is going to be an expense that you're going to have to incur, and you're going to have to factor that in. Now that's just childcare. You still got to feed the baby. Now I know we can talk about breastfeeding and things like that, but if you're working, you're either pumping the milk, or you're going to have to buy the Similac, the baby food, unless you're going to be, industrious and get those food processors and make that baby
food to even process.
But that's correct. You more than likely your grocery bill is going to change, because even if you do the food processor, you're going to have to buy, hopefully, fresh vegetables that you're putting in the food processor to make baby food. Or if you're buying Gerber, you're buying it off the shelf. So your grocery bill is going up. Then, needless to say, your health insurance is going up, because if you used to just be single or just you or your spouse, now you got to tell your employer to do a family plan. And for those of you that watch healthcare, oh my God, to change to a family plan, that gets expensive. And for most employers, that's going to come out of your paycheck. Some employers will pay where they'll cover you, the employee, but anything else is extra. So that's a cost you've got to factor. By the time we finish, nobody's going to want to have any kids.
I'm thinking, woo.
When you think about it, I'm sitting here now like, oh my goodness, how in the world did we make it? But all of those are real dollars that you really, really just cannot get around.
Well, Elder, we haven't even put clothes on the baby yet.
Oh my goodness, we haven't put clothes on them. We haven't gotten them in school for extracurricular activities.
And for uniforms, yet somebody just put diapers.
Oh, that's right.
Absolutely.
That's correct.
And then while it may not even be an immediate cost, but even planning for their future, are you going to be able to help them go to college? So are you going to start putting something away, early on to be able to help them when they turn 18, whether it's going away to college or to a trade school or into the military, whatever, give them kind of a nest egg so that they don't have to start from square one, because, what does the Bible say? Leave an inheritance, and you should be able to help. Well, we believe. I'll say we believe that you should be able to help the generation that come. Somebody said, "Thank God for grandparents." I know that's right.
Well, after this conversation, I don't think there are going to be any kids that to leave anything to, because everybody can be like, "Well, I can't afford one." Because we had somebody on the chat that said they're paying $1,200 a month for childcare for 3. That is a mortgage payment, so that is a lot. Now, there was another suggestion. I don't know if I'd advocated, but they said when they had children, or I don't know if they said when they did it, but a suggestion was when you have a child, one work the day shift and somebody works the night shift for a while.
That might work, but it might also put a little strain on the marriage.
Well, that's why I said I don't know if I'd recommend that one. I mean, if it works for you, as I always say, if it works for you in your marriage, it works. But some kind of way, I think the one working that day shift might be getting the short end of the stick, because even though they working days, that baby gonna be up during the night,
all night.
He's still not sleeping. So I think that marriage still need to be some kind of negotiations there. But the bottom line is, I think the point is a valid one, which is, husband and wives, you really need to be talking about whether or not you want childcare and what that's going to mean in your marriage, what that impact is going to be materialistically from the expense standpoint, and time-wise from you as couples for the areas that we've already talked about. Who is going to be the primary provider for the child care? Who's going to be the one getting up at night? And you'll be surprised that, the thinking is the wife got to get up, especially if she's breastfeeding, and the other one wants to roll over. Or even if you got a bottle, and then you want to make the husband get up, and he like, oh, you get up. I mean, we don't talk about these things, and it really does cause problems within the marriage. So you really, really, really should think about these things and talk about them and factor them into your budget
ahead of time.
Absolutely.
I've been watching the chat. I haven't seen any new questions come in. So I'm not sure, Elder, if anybody has any more questions that they want to drop in the chat, or Elder, you have any closing thoughts?
Well, I see one here that says college plans are a must. That is true. That's what Kimberly was speaking about. But clearly you can already see, y'all, and this is why, I'm just such a big advocate on a budget, because it really gives you a true and honest snapshot of your financial strength within your household to do anything, whether it's a car, whether it's a bigger house, whether it's moving out of an apartment, whether it's taking a vacation, whether it's having kids. I mean, what was there was this work conference that we went to once before, and they had you didn't go. They had this workshop, and they had the letters CASH in big letters. It was the theme of their conference. Cash.
I thought it was cream. Cream.
Yes, I'm sorry. It was cream. I must have told you about it because you didn't go to the conference.
I did not go, but you did tell me about it.
That's right. Cream. CREAM. And it stands for, do you remember what I said it stood for?
Cash rules everything around me.
Absolutely. Cream. CREAM. Cash rules everything around me. Cash rules everything around me. So what are we saying? Every decision you make, people, every decision you make has a financial implication about it. I know we don't like to think that way, but it does. I mean, I don't care what scenario you may come up with. Just deciding what you want to eat for dinner has a cash impact because you either had to go buy it in your budget or you had to go out to buy it at a restaurant. What you're going to wear, that means you had to go buy some clothes. How you going to fix your hair? Either you did it and you bought the products to do it at home, or you went to a beautician. You know, everything you do in your whole life. And if we began to think that way, I think sometimes we would stop and spend just a little bit more time thinking about the things we do before we do them. The problem is we do it, and then the financial implication hits and we're unprepared for it. So yeah, cream, cash rules everything around me.
And I think, you know, it's a good segue into our next session because we were talking about preparing for our kids to go to college, and I saw somebody even ask about 529 plans. And so just a plug for November 4th. If you guys remember, we have a special guest, Jason Adkins. He will be with us, and he is great at what he does. He'll be able to answer questions on the 529 plans, and even perhaps planning for your kids to go away to college, or retirement, estate planning, all of those things. And so we encourage you, if you have specific questions that you want to make sure that he kind of hits on November 4th, feel free to shoot them to the email financialfitness@themountleads.org. And whoops, I'm sorry, I sent that to the wrong.
Yeah, I think I was supposed to be everyone too. I did it just to.
So any questions that you all have regarding estate planning, retirement planning, or any kind of long-term planning, feel free to send those questions to that email address, financialfitness@themountleads.org, and I'm going to forward them over to Jason so that he is prepared to address those questions ahead of time. I can say that I work with Jason for my personal retirement plan, and he has me set up, and you can talk to him, because I'm 30, but I don't feel like I'm too old or too young to have life insurance. I have life insurance, and I joke around with my mom all the time. If something happened to me, I even have a long-term care rider in there, so y'all don't have to pay for the nurse to come care for me. I'm gonna pay for it myself, at least for a certain amount of time. Hopefully for as long as I would ever need them. I had to keep within my budget. So even still with that, I had to know how much can I afford as my monthly premium. So Jason he's excited. It's gonna be a good time. And so I encourage y'all to really take advantage of that hour with him. So again, to maximize that, if you want to send any questions ahead of time, I'll compile that and get it over to him so that he can address it as best as he can during
his presentation. Yeah.
November 4th session. I'm telling you, you can sit with him and talk with him for hours.
Yes.
Because we've been in that situation, but we've had good interaction with him. Good things have come from that relationship. So I think you guys will enjoy him.
Yep. Okay.
If you can afford it, should you double up on car payment and put money in savings, or just put all the money in the savings?
Again, that, doubling up on a car payment is just like trying to pay off a credit card. Depends on what your interest rate is on that car note. Some of the car notes right now, 0% interest, 1% interest. If it's a low interest rate, I'd say put the money in your savings, because obviously, and again, money market, something that's earning more than what your car payment interest is, because we always said you want to put your money where you're getting the highest interest. So if you're able to earn more than what the interest is on your car payment, then you put the money in your savings and just pay your regular car payment. If you're trying to just quickly get it paid off because you're trying to get into the realm of what we were talking about, having it paid off so that you can continue to pay yourself, I see nothing wrong with doubling up on the payment. Again, there's never a right and a wrong answer. It must be what fits your situation, given other things that you may have in place. Because again, if you don't have your 3 to 6 months of expenses in a savings account, I would never tell you to double up on payments, because you need to be putting that money away, because you've got to have that 3 to 6 month savings account, because if an emergency comes up, that car payment is not going to say you don't have to pay this month because you paid twice, double up last month. That money is gone. They've applied it to your principal, and your next month's payment is still due. So that would be my concern if you don't have that extra money on the side. So I got to always put that qualification in there. We got a lot of people, who are watching this, and everybody's in a different situation. Some people have savings, some people don't. So I don't want to ever give an answer that everyone thinks it's a one size fits all. It is not. Okay. So that's why I don't want you to think I don't want to give you a exact answer. I'm trying to give you one based on different scenarios that may fit each of you differently, because each of you are in a different spot. Okay.
We have a question. Somebody asked, is it a good idea to lease a car, then have the option to pay it off if you want to keep it?
No. You are paying more for the car by leasing it and then buying it at the end than if you had just gone ahead and bought the car. Okay. Because this is just like renting an apartment. And then after you rent it for a year or two, you tell the landlord, okay, now I want to buy this as a condo. He gonna charge you, but he gonna charge you today's value of that car note. So there are some leases that have the $1 payout at the end. Well, if you run the numbers, you paid for the car. Okay. So you got to work the math, but it does not make sense. Let me say it this way. Leasing, the purpose behind leasing is twofold. It was created primarily, as I always say, most things start off with one objective and then we all change it to suit our purposes. But leasing came about as a way for business owners to be able to easily write off cars that they use in their business, and they didn't want to have to do all the maintenance and the upkeep and all of that, because employees were changing, cars were being turned in within a year or 2 years, and it was very difficult when you were buying the car, because obviously when it was time to turn it in, you know the deal, that you owed more on the car than the car was worth. And so what came about, car dealers said, okay, we coming up with this program called a lease program. Businesses, you can lease the cars, you can write it off for your business as a business expense. It was real clean. You can bring it in, because with a lease, you can do a 1-year lease. I only want the car for 1 year, and you pay for just that 1 year. You turn the car in, you don't owe anything. It's good, it's clean. That's what a lease was for primarily. So you're not locked into a long-term car payment where you're responsible for things. But if you read the fine print in leases, they limit you on the number of miles that you can drive a year. So some lease payments will say you can only drive 12,000 miles a year. Well, most of us be driving 15 and 20. Well, you have to pay for that extra mileage in a lease payment. And you still have to do some upkeep and some maintenance. So there are some drawbacks to a regular owner of a car as opposed to someone who is in a business who is trying to write off a car. We, average consumers, tend to like leases because you can get more car for less of a payment. That's all we're looking at. Oh, if I buy the Escalade, my payment gonna be $900. But if I lease it, it's only $600. So you jump in that lease and you paying $600, and then you put 20,000 miles on it. And at the end of the lease term, you do that every year, and you owe the car dealer for 20,000 extra miles. And when you finish paying them an extra 10 grand, you done paid more for the car than what you would have paid.
Don't have it.
So read the fine print. Leases were not created for the average family person looking for a car as their runaround vehicle, putting miles on it, driving to Disney, driving to Myrtle Beach, and doing a whole lot of things like that, because you don't even have a business that you can write off those car payments. The lease is primarily created. I mean, again, there are exceptions to everything, but primarily the lease will make you end up paying more for it if you're trying to buy it at the end than if you had just bought it outright. So no.
And Elder, I just see one more question, and I'm gonna just use. I guess we can go. It's about 8 o'clock, so I know we've got to wrap up. But I see questions asking for the contact information for Jason or another financial advisor, and so obviously when he gets on, Jason will provide his contact information. Yes. But Elder and I just want to put the disclaimer out there. You know.
Yes.
Whether it's you decide to go into business with Jason or any other financial advisor, don't take our word for it just because we are providing him as a resource. Do your due diligence, research, ask the person countless questions and see what are they even doing for themselves. How long have they been in business? Because I know that's another thing. We just take a class and now we think we're the finance expert. And so I would just encourage you, again, whether it's Jason or whoever, make sure you're doing your due diligence and asking the right questions so that you are investing your money with the appropriate person that best suits your needs.
Absolutely. And one of the key things I look for, which is one of the reasons why we switched to Jason. Jason also, I don't know if Kimberly said this, but he does the church's retirement plans and everything. He does the investments for us, and I've really enjoyed working with him. I'm a CPA, and I have a pretty good working knowledge of finances, but there are still a lot of things I don't know when it comes to investing and things like that. And I want someone that I can ask 1,000 questions and they don't make me feel stupid. You know what I mean? You know how you get somewhere and you can ready to spend your money, but they're making you feel stupid for asking questions. Well, I'm not doing business with you. I mean, I don't understand, and I ain't giving you my money until I understand. So for me, one of the things, whether it's an attorney that I'm working with, whether it's for trust or anything like that, work with someone that you feel comfortable with, because again, this is how we get in trouble. We are too embarrassed, and I don't know why, because if I was the financial expert, I would need you, right? So you're supposed to come stupid. That's why I got you. I'm asking you the questions. And if you don't ask the question, I know, but I mean, seriously, and we don't, we don't read. So you're not going to read that 50-page contract they're going to give you. And all in there is all that fine print that we didn't read. They didn't explain it to you. And now you mad down the road because, oh, Elder, he didn't explain that to me, or I didn't understand that, or I didn't realize that was what was going to happen. Well, you've got to ask questions. So go with someone And I would do it this way. I would say, can you give me another example? Or can you explain it this way? And I just keep going. Call me stupid. And I'll even say that, hey, maybe I'm having one of them days where my brain working slow, but I need you to explain that another way because I still just did not understand it. Absolutely. So please, whoever you go with, when you're spending your money, do not take people at face value for what they said and walk out there saying, well, I think he got my best interest at heart. If you didn't understand what he was doing or what he was selling you, don't buy it. Tell him, let me think on this. Let me go home before I do this and I'll get back to you. Because sometimes they can feed you so much information because they really are trying to be helpful. I mean, we're not obviously going to put anybody in front of you that we think is intentionally ill-willed or anything like that. But sometimes, it's not and I say this all the time, it's not a one case fits everybody. You want someone who has worked with a diverse group of people because, as I shared, each of you are in a different financial status and situation. So what plan he puts together for one person may not work for another. And you've got to be able to share what it is you're trying to do. Where is it you're trying to go? What age you're trying to retire? How much income you think you want to have? How much money do you even have available? Because you're going to have to share your financial information with this person in order for them to be able to give you great advice. And if you don't feel comfortable enough to give them your financial information, your W-2s, your tax returns, how much you making, how much you got saved, if right off the bat you don't feel comfortable with that, then that's not the person for you. Because
and don't be afraid to say no. I mean, again, right. It is your money. Yeah, they may have sat with you and tried to sell you this product, but if you, and we always, women's intuition, your instincts, your gut, whatever, if you are uncomfortable, don't sign any paperwork with the person. And
that is correct.
To the point, to Elder's point about, working different examples, because even, in my personal meetings with Jason, he'll walk you through a generic example and I say, no, can you put my numbers in there? What does it look like with me paying this premium for however long? What is that going to look like to me when I'm 50 or when I'm 60, so that I know specifically? Because with technology these days, they just like we manipulate the payment calculator to fit our specifications, they should be able to do the same thing for your for whatever it is that you can afford to pay on a monthly basis or whatever the situation may be. And let them know this is what I am trying to achieve. So what does it take for me to get there? Or maybe it's a little aggressive and I need to, either I'm gonna have to really get disciplined, or maybe I need to back my expectations back a little bit. And maybe I can't retire at 45. Maybe it's gonna be 50 or 55. Right.
Absolutely. But I think you will enjoy him. But I'm sure, Kimberly and I will have probably the names of some other people after this session is over that perhaps you can interview all of them and decide, who you might want to work with. We're not making any money doing a referral to Jason. He's not giving us no discounts. He ain't giving the church no discount. We throw that out there right now. That ain't happening. So please don't think we're referring him because we getting any kind of kickback. That's just not happening. We will say, is doing our work personally, and he is doing our stuff for us for the church. So we've been working with him probably the last 2 to 3 years. We have been using Vince Carpenter. I don't know if many of you know him. He had been with us for 20, 30 years. Yeah, a long time. And the only reason why we switched because he got out of that market. He's doing some other things like all of us, moving on. And so we had to look for someone new, and we had an interim person between him and Jason. And like we just said, it won't work. And we said, no, I can't have nobody trying to jam nothing down my throat. I mean, I'm like I said, I ain't stupid, but I'm stupid. Okay. But I ain't that stupid. I know a little bit to know you trying to, no.
You trying to get over on me.
No. Let's move our money. This ain't going to work. And so we found Jason, and we've been happy with him, and he's been with us for the last 2-3 years. And he and I have even gone at it, which is always a good sign too. What you say, you know, your best friend when y'all can go at it and y'all still be okay. Because you know he be trying to tell me, so I said, no, I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that because this is why I ain't doing that. You know, and so I like that. We good. So I think he's a good person. But again, you judge for yourself, and we'll have some other names of people you can look for and look to. But he will be here next week. Well, I mean, 2 weeks.
November 4th. Yeah.
November 4th, 2 weeks from now. So please, yeah, if you have any specific questions, shoot them to that email. Kim, did you put it in the chat?
In the
chat. Send it to us so that he can make it a part of his presentation so that he can get as many individual questions answered as he's talking, so that we can leave time at the end for anything, new questions that may come up based on what he said. And then of course, obviously he's not going to be able to do a one-on-one on this chat. And you know, if you like him or whatever, I'm sure he's going to put his information up there and y'all can, you know, meet him off line and see what he can do for you. And then 2 weeks from that date, I am so excited. I really can't wait for
November 21st, right before Thanksgiving.
We're going to be looking at investments. I can't wait. And we'll be doing a wrap-up summary conclusion of our financial fitness. We're going to give you some final tips that we have in our bag of tricks of how you can stay on track and get to where you're going along with investing. So it's been fun. We're 4 weeks in. We're 4 sessions in, 2 more to go. Keep working on your budget. Keep working on your spend tracker. Everyone, please, please. Also, let's get out of debt. Let's get rid of those credit cards. Let's work on these things. Please don't put them down after the session is over and not look at them again. Please keep them going, keep them working. Want to hear some success stories? We'll share a couple of success stories with you of people who were with us previously years ago when I did the financial thing. I didn't realize it's been 5 years since I really did an intensive one. And they were sharing with me the progress that they have made in their 5-year journey. And it has been awesome. So we're here to be able to give you testimonies, y'all, that it does work if you work the plan and use these tips. You can get there. So we're excited. We're hoping everybody is learning something that will make their life a lot easier, a lot better if they just stick to these principles. So with that, Ms. Kimberly, you want to pray us out?
Yep. Heavenly Father, God, we thank you for the opportunity to gather here because we know that iron sharpens iron, God. So we thank you for all that was said tonight, God. We pray that everything that Elder and I shared tonight was pleasing to you, that it was what you would have had us to share with your children, God. We ask that you continue to help us to be disciplined so that we can achieve all that it is that you desire for us to have in this lifetime, God. Help us to stay focused so that in the coming months, we can work on becoming debt-free and homeowners and car owners and be prepared to have children and be able to guide them as they grow into adults so that they can be better off than we were when we were becoming adults, God. So we thank you, God, for all that you've done, God. We thank you for all that you are, God. We thank you for how you continue to bless us, God, how you continue to favor us, God. We thank you for allowing us to be a part of a fellowship, a ministry that finds it important not just to speak the word of God in our lives on Sundays and Wednesdays, God, but even to find it important to pour into us financial stewardship and other important life skills, God. We love you, God, and we just thank you for everything you've done and all that you're going to do, God. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Good night. Thank you.
Kimberly,
It was our pleasure too.
we appreciate you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank y'all. We're having so much fun.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Good night.